Now, though the blackout period around Fed meetings was extended, and I can tell you that as a longtime Fed watcher, I loved it when the blackout period was extended because it was almost like a sleep while the baby sleeps. So I could like relax longer leading up to the meeting, because we could all sort of take a break. And I also used to have a saying that and this is my personal saying, the Fed does not react well to late breaking news. And it was my way of saying, once you went into blackout, that was it. The data in hand determined that meeting. But it feels like more so over the last year or two, data, and maybe it's the volatility around the data is being considered during the blackout period. Maybe it always was, it just wasn't that volatile. Even policymakers have talked about, and yourself, data that was released during blackout leading up to the meeting. So what does that mean for an employment report that's released during blackout just ahead of the November meeting?
I mean, it depends on the broader situation, but if it's a really important employment report, you should assume we haven't made a decision until we see it. And we're absolutely going to take into account important data that comes in during the blackout period. It gets harder when it's like this, the morning of the second day of the meeting. It's harder to do that. But, because, everything is just, it's a big machine. But if it comes out during the blackout period, where, you should just, going into that, you should just assume that what happens there could really matter for the decision. If that makes sense, there might be a situation where that wouldn't make sense. But I think in the world we're in right now, then, we're going to be looking carefully at the data, even though it's in blackout. Absolutely.
And if this is right, then even during the deliberations during the FOMC meeting, policymakers do have the ability to change their thinking or their forecasts or their views during that meeting.
Yes, I mean, we do a lot of work, during blackout. We spend a lot of time. I talk to every participant on the Thursday and Friday before the meeting in detail about the economy and what they're hearing. And so there's a lot of discussion that goes on. And ideally, what we discuss in the meeting is kind of a synthesis of all of the views and information that we're all sharing with each other. So, but you should just assume, though, that decisions don't get made until the meeting. They're not going to be made. I mean, sometimes there isn't really a decision to make, right? It's pretty obvious what we're going to do. Other times, when there is a serious decision to make, you should just assume that it gets made with as much information as possible. If you make the decision before you get all the information, you're throwing away, some information there. You wouldn't do that.
So when you began hiking the federal funds rate in 2022, the focus has been on the policy lags, sort of long and variable, but who knows how long or how variable. And so, it seemed like the lags were longer than we thought they would be on the way up. Does that mean that the lags may be longer on the way down? And how do you gauge whether those lags are changing?
This is a very hard part of it. You can't really know. Even now, we can't really know why what's happening is happening. People will be debating in 25 years whether what's happening now with the cooling labor market is due to policy lags or due to something else. So we can't know. What we can know is that what we believe is that policy works with long and variable lags, and we have to take that into account in our thinking, and we do. It's challenging. On the other hand, just take the current situation. What you see is solid growth in the economy. And what you see is a solid labor